So Jesus, Matthew chapter 5 is the first ever recorded sermon ni Jesus. Okay, first ever sermon here. If you read that, so Matthew chapter 1, 2, 3, and verse 4, Matthew talks about baptismal in Jesus, right? And then he went into the wilderness. Okay? Then human na after the wilderness experience when he was tempted, right? Tempted siya. Devil was there to tempt him, those temptations. And then after that, balik siya sa community. That was when Matthew talked about, Matthew chapter 5, where nasaka siya sa isa ka bukid, we will say, small mountain, where he was able to preach to the people. Okay? But what Matthew doesn't say is that most of the events leading up to that, right, may mga events, small events within Jerusalem that has led up to this. You can understand more by reading the Thoughts from the Mount of Blessing, or Desire of Ages, expository ni Sister White, about what really transpired between chapter 4 and chapter 5. But for our purpose today, we don't necessarily have to go to there. But you guys know this, right? The Beatitudes. Beatitudes it's one of the new commandments where Jesus was given to the people. And the first one is this: blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So basically there are about 8, okay? Walong ka Beatitudes, and the first one is this: blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Okay. So I want you guys to imagine with me, okay? Imagine with me. First ever message in Jesus, first sermon ever presented, and everyone, like you guys are sitting and listening to me, they're anticipating, what's the message, right? Because you have to know that prior to Jesus, or before Jesus came into scene, there were other teachers of the scriptures as well, right? Teachers of laws. And we know them, mga Pariseo, right? Mga Pharisees. Then Sadducees. We have also the Essenes and the Zealots, okay? The Essenes and the Zealots. Those are the 4 most common groups of people na sila sa Jerusalem, right? Or the first century Judaism. These were the 4 prominent groups of people: Pharisees, Sadducees, mga Essenes and Zealots. Zealots are more of a military kind of people, okay? The Essenes are people that live out from the community. All of them are Jews. Jews sila gihapon, pero na sila kaugalingon na way, like systems of beliefs. But they still believe in the book of law, Moses, and then all of them. They still all the traditions. Pero na sila yung kaugalingon na our way of keeping that. And then the Pharisees are the one always in the sanctuary, right? Those people in the sanctuary, those people in the temple. Those are in the synagogue, those are the Pharisees. Sadducees are more of the people that links the Roman Empire. They're more on the politics side, okay? But they still hold power. So when Jesus comes into the scene, mga kaigsonan, he has to be very careful sa iyang mga words, right? Iyang batasan, iyang attitude, and at the same time, the way he speaks. He has to be very careful in a way that people will not categorize him or classify, oh, he's another Pharisee, he's another Sadducees. Siguro, he's an Essene or a Zealot, right? He has to be very careful. And Matthew, if you read the book Gospel of Matthew, so many times, 1 to 3, I think almost 8 times, where he keeps saying that he spoke with authority like no one else, right? Every time Sulti or wali si Jesus, it's always with authority. Even mga tao na they were following him that time, they were like, this is totally new. They were so, in English it says, revolutionized, okay? I don't know what's the desired term for it, but the world is turned upside down. Okay? New information, they haven't heard those things. Even when bata pa sila growing up, they've never heard of the things that Jesus had said. And this is one of the things, okay? Because sa mga Judeo, ilang first belief, one of the belief systems that they have is that kung dato ka, that means that you are fully favored by God. Okay? If you are dato, you're rich, and you are healthy, you are doubly favored by God. Okay? Firstly, if you are Jew, you are favored by God. If you are rich Jew, you are doubly favored by God. Okay? If you are rich, healthy, and if you're wealthy, healthy Jew, you are triply favored by God. Maray na huna-huna. So that means, if na kay sakiton, right? Or if you have some leprosy or some sort of disease sa inyong family, or if you are pobre sa inyong family, ang meaning ang rason na is God doesn't have favor upon you. There is no blessing in Ginoo sa iyong kinabuhi, sa iyong family line. Tungod sa siguro na nakaisala sa iyong family, something like that. That's the way they understand things. So, every person that is rich in the Jewish community, definitely, absolutely, automatically, they are defined as, or they are understood as people na ay what? Blessing ni Ginoo upon their lives. God is in favor of these people. That's why mga Pharisees, mga Sadducees, they see them as I people living in the community. Right? But when Jesus comes, this is the first words ni Ginoo, right? Blessed, right? Those people who are being blessed, those people who are happy, there are other translation that says happy, okay? Happy are those. And then he says, happy or blessed are the poor in spirit. Imagine this. First words that you know, blessed are the poor in spirit. How do you expect the Jewish congregation to accept, to receive the information? It would have been something new to them, di ba? Kaya of course, pobre ka, if you are poor, there is no blessing na ginawa upon you. Kaya maray lang understanding. Nga na Jesus, the first thing that He has opened His mouth and said is, blessed are the poor in spirit. Right? Now, just listen to the solution of that. Those people who are poor in spirit, theirs, sa ilaha, says, this is what they're going to receive. Kingdom of heaven. Kingdom of heaven. Kita karon, it's easy for us to miss this because naata karon sa 21st century, di ba? 21st. So 2,100 years later, right? But if you were during the first century, during the time in Judaism, like first century Judaism, during that time, this would have been something very new for you, right? You would have think, I think this person is a little bit wrong with his philosophy or his ideology or way of thinking. Kana na ingon siya, blessed are the ones who are poor. Right? Kita karon, we already have the luxury of living in 21st century. We can look back, in English they say retrospect, meaning, because nata diri karon, kapota, Jesus has already died and risen to heaven. It's easy for us to look back in the Bible and read the previous text to the context, atong context karon, kay kapota ta, Jesus already died and went to heaven. Sa nila, karon na time, they didn't know yet because it's in the future, but Jesus did not die yet. And the revealing of His ministry has yet to begin. Marian first sermon, di ba? So that was His words. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What I want you guys to understand is that when they are sitting there, the poor that Jesus is using here, it's not an economical term, okay? It's not about money or wealth. Although, we can associate that easily, Karo, because when you say poor, the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, wala siya kwarta, right? They don't have the luxury or privilege of having this amount of wealth. That's why they don't have a house, they don't have a place to stay, they don't have, other privileged things that wealthy people have. But during the time when Jesus was saying this, He wasn't necessarily referring to wealth in terms of money. But He says here, blessed are the poor in what? In spirit, okay? So in other words, basically, what Jesus was saying is that mga tao na they realize, right? They come to the realization na they have spiritual poverty, right? They are struggling spiritually. And that is in reference to ilang mga faith, right? Pagtoo. They are struggling in the faith. They are battling with some certain sins. Nasana silang kinabuhi, kagalingan na kinabuhi, right? If they have some struggling, mga desires that they have, mga sins that they are holding and they're struggling within themselves, those people, blessed are those people. Kagano? Those are the people who are able to realize that they are what? Unworthy, right? In what? In God's sight. So imagine this. You can also, like, if you would use the sanctified imagination just for like for a while, and think of it. If there was a congregation following Jesus during the time, definitely, right, the Sadducees and the Pharisees would have been there also. Not all of them, the whole Sanhedrin will be there, but maybe some of the representatives are just there. The ilang intention is not to listen to him or anything, but just to find out whatever words that he will say that will contradict the law of Moses, so that they can find something to what? Try to bring him to to the law, right? Oh, he has done this and all of that. So they are finding ways. People are there with different intentions. Some people are there just to see mga miracles, right? They just want to see the miracles. Also, things that he would do, healing and all that. And some others are just following the crowd. There are people there that really wanted to learn something. And there are also the Pharisees that were there. So Jesus says, blessed are the poor in spirit. Everyone will be so shocked and thinking, man, what is this guy saying, right? Even the Pharisees would have thought, blasphemy. Why is he saying those people who are unrighteous and sinful in the nature, those are ones that have been blessed? Right? Because they already know that righteousness is always associated automatically with being blessed and having wealth and having all of those favor and Then he says, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Imagine this, huh? All this time, after the reign I think Jehoshaphat, and then those people were, the Hebrew story nila Daniel, if you guys can remember, they were taken into captivity sa Babylon, right? They went into Babylon, and they were taken into captivity. During that time, time in Jesus, they were never set free. They were still oppressed under different governments and rulers, right? So after Babylon, you have the Media-Persia, right, and the Greece, and then after them, Media-Persia, and then after them the Greeks, then after them Romans. So they were never liberated when they brought into, after the prophecy in Jeremiah that they will be brought into what? Into captivity. After that, they were not liberated. Even though Artaxerxes sent them to go back to rebuild the temple, the story of Nehemiah, if you read Nehemiah and Esther, that they went back to rebuild Jerusalem, temple and the gates, they were still under the what? Under the rule of Medes and Persians. Yeah, after that, the Greeks came into 400 years, right? For 400 years, they never had a prophet. That's why our books of the Bible, the Old Testament, only stop in Malachi, because for 400 years after that, when the Greeks came into the scenario, they were not liberated. They were under the captivity of Greeks. Okay? I'm saying all of this background so that I want you guys to understand what was the situation when Jesus came into the scenario, right? It wasn't easy like when we read the Bible, oh, why didn't they see that this was Jesus? No. Because their whole life, the whole ideology, the philosophy, sa mga Jewish people was being like transformed by the different succeeding powers that came before them. And only the Pharisees, they were the ones holding the truth, right? They think it's truth because they have the access of the scrolls, accessibility to the scrolls, the Torah, which is we call the Bible today, only in the sanctuary. And modern people like us, normal people like us, we don't have access to the scrolls. The way we know the scripture is by going to the synagogue on Sabbath and listen to them, or from our parents verbally telling us through our ancestors going down, right? So you can see how underprivileged the typical normal people were. And when Jesus came, a simple thing like this, it was radical. Radical means very new to them. But it was already in the Bible. It's just that they were being taught differently throughout the history that they did not know. That even when Jesus came into being, they didn't know it was Jesus, right? Kaya ilang una is, we were going to have a Messiah the way Daniel says, right? The 70-week prophecy that we know. Adventists, we really preach about this, which give rise to the 2,200 days and all of those prophecies. Pero ilang una is that the Messiah that will come will free us from the Roman Empire. Okay?